you doing? So that's the end of the road on the Transamerica Trail for me. And I'm going to talk about it for just a little bit. Okay. First of all, I used Kevin's GPS, his SD card. That's the only one I used. I was on the road for 2.5 months. Like I said in the first video I made, you know, I just want to take my time. I didn't want to blow through it. I was pretty lucky, pretty fortunate for what I did finish. I didn't finish the whole trail, but I only fell 4 times. I thought that was pretty good for a rookie, you know. The hardest part on the east side of the Transamerica Trail, I thought, was War Loop Road, which is pretty sketchy, but interesting, you know. It was pretty cool. And I'm sure you know that, you know, I talked about being scared of height, tried to get over it all my life, and just couldn't do it. And I knew that was going to come into play when I got to Colorado, you know. I thought I was prepared for this adventure, you know, being my first adventure on an adventure bike. I thought I was pretty prepared for it. I did a lot of research for a whole year before I left. Watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I just thought that you know, the passes looked doable, even though I was scared of height, and they're pretty sketchy. I thought they were doable, but got a rude awakening when I got to Colorado. Yeah, before I got to Colorado, you couldn't wipe the smile off my face, you know, the whole, you know, journey there. But let's see, I got some notes here I got to go through and just look at them for a minute. Okay, so where the Continental Divide goes through Marshall Pass, I believe it's right outside of Salida. That was fun. That was cool, you know, wasn't that tough. And then I got to Lake City, Colorado, and you're supposed to take Engineer Pass over the mountain to Silverton. You know, that's on the Transamerica Trail. And so I got to Lake City, and I got a campground, and I took all the gear off my bike. I wanted to try it with no gear, see if I could do it that way. Well, I got up to the top of Engineer Pass, and as soon as I made the last switchback and got right up to it, I was concentrating so bad on just getting there, and those switchbacks, you got to have total concentration. So as soon as I made that last turn, I seen it said Engineer Pass, elevation 12,800. The wind hit me like 70-mile-an-hour wind, and I just immediately, it was going to blow me over. I immediately jumped off the bike, put the kickstand down, jumped off the bike, and held the bike up. I'm sitting there holding the bike up, and there's 2 hikers up there standing, leaning about halfway over into the wind. And finally, by the time they walked over to me, the wind would not let up. It didn't let up, not 1 second. It was a steady 70, at least 70. I don't know. It could be more, but it was strong. So I'm on the, you know, holding the bike up, and they come over and and by the time they came over to me, I was done. I was going to turn around. I wasn't going to go over the rest of the Engineer Pass. I wanted to turn around, but I couldn't move. I couldn't move that bike by myself in that wind. It had me. And they walked over to me finally, and they said if I need any help, they'll help me. And I said, yep, I need help right now. Let's go. So it took 3 of us to get that bike turned around and down the switchback a little bit in front of a wall of snow, and once you got past to that wall of snow, the wind, there was no wind, you know. That wall was just, so I was safe then. And I said thanks and everything, and I went back to camp, just, you know, felt defeated. And I thought about it all night, you know, how am I going to do engineer pass tomorrow with all my gear on the bike? And so I think I spent a day just riding around, enjoying the place, you know, and stuff. And then the next day I loaded up and headed toward engineer pass again. And I get up to I think I got up to the second switchback, and it gets sketchier, every one. The first one's pretty sketchy. The second one's more than sketchier than the one before. It just keeps getting worse and worse. I got to the second one, and it was, this bike was overloaded for sure. And the same hiker, the same two hikers that you'll see it in one of the videos. I got to a switchback, and I was pretty, almost about talked myself out of it already. And he said, "Oh yeah, you're the guy that we helped down the other day." I said, "Yeah." And then it just hit me. I said, I can't do this stuff. I got to start thinking smarter, you know, and I can't do this kind of stuff on my own, you know, with nobody around in case something happened. So I turned around, and I knew what turning around meant. That I didn't want to do it, that's for sure. But it means that you got to ride 130 miles around the mountain to get to Silverton. And that's exactly what I did. I pulled into Silverton late afternoon and got a campsite. And I thought, okay, I'll try some passes tomorrow. Got up. I went and tried California Pass, and got up. It got through, I don't know, not much of it, maybe about a quarter of it, and I came to this really steep part of it, a switchback, and I just fell over. First time I fell on the Transamerica Trail, and I just said, you know what, I think I've had enough of these passes. And I turned around and went back to camp, and you know, I just thought I better cut my losses and get on with the rest of the trail, and that's what I did. And another thing, when I was doing the research, watching all these videos about the Transamerica Trail, you know, these passes out by Colorado, you see I seen the side-by-sides and the Jeeps going up and down them, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. We're sharing the passes with the Jeeps and side-by-sides, but that's not the case. That's not the case. The case is, those are Jeep trails, and they're four-wheel drive Jeep trails. Those things aren't designed and made for a one-wheel drive dirt bike, you know, by no stretch of the imagination. But, you know, expert riders, they have no problem with it. They make it look as easy as can be. But rookies, novices, adventure riders, I would side on the caution side. You know, I'd be real careful when you attempt those you know, passes, because Jeeps, they can stop and say, which way am I going to go on this trail? Should I go that way or go a little that way? Or, you know, they can stop right mid-trail. They don't have to keep their momentum up or nothing, because they can crawl up them. But a dirt bike, you got to keep your momentum up, because they get steep. And with gear on the bike, if you stop in some of these passes, you might not get going again, you know, or you'll have a hell of a time getting going again. They're steep, you know, and sketchy. Baby heads, you know, they always talk about baby heads, you know, big rocks, you know. side of the mountain, straight down forever, so when you make a hairpin, when you go up these switchbacks, when you make that switchback, you got about a second and a half to choose the right line, and it better be a good one. But there's no good right line. There's no, none of them's good. So you better pick the best one you think is best, and you better be right, That's just my opinion, That's just my opinion of this off-road riding, and then passes. Those passes were pretty, I would call dangerous. I don't know, Experts made it look so easy, I spent the night and then got packed up and went to the trail. So anyhow, yeah, the passes were pretty tough. That's for sure. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, the last day. Matter of fact, the last 4 videos of the time I rode was one day, the last day I rode the Transamerica Trail. Got up I was on the trail by 7. You see it if you watch the videos. I buried the bike first thing in the morning, and then it was right around 4:30, 5 o'clock. I was already on the trail for 8 hours, and still didn't know when a crossroad or anything. I'm looking for a crossroad to opt out. I had enough for that day. I was pretty wore out, by 4 or 5 o'clock, and I fell. And that was the second time I fell, on the whole trail. So I fell and got up, It was hot. It was over 100 degrees out there. I was down to about 16 to 20 ounces of water. I was starting to feel anxiety build up a little bit. I started to feel a little heat stroke because I've been heat stroked before. So I was getting a touch of that, and that was kind of freaking me out a little bit. And got back on the bike, and I went maybe 200 yards and fell again. And had to unload the bike. Got back up because you don't have time to rest or nothing. There's no shade. It's hotter than hell out there, and I didn't have no time to catch a breather or nothing. So anyhow, got back on the bike. I probably went another 200 yards and fell for the 3rd time, but this time I got stuck under the bike. My leg got stuck under the saddlebag of the bike, and that's when the adrenaline just hit, and panic and anxiety, and I just took about 2 seconds to think about it, and then just started shaking my leg as hard as I could, and I finally got out from under the bike, and I couldn't catch my breath. I was out of breath, and every time I took a drink, 5 seconds later my mouth was bone dry, like I never drank anything. And I didn't want to drink the last of my water because I didn't know how much further I had to go, so I didn't want to run out of water. So got back up. By the time I got back up from that 3rd fall, got back on the bike, and I went probably 20 yards, and all of a sudden the trail just disappeared. I had to get off the bike and look for the trail, and I finally found the trail, got back on the bike, and at this point in time I had 0 energy. I had no energy, and that's how I knew I was a little heat stroke, because I had no energy whatsoever. I thought, if I fall again, I don't know if I got energy to pick the bike up. And if the bike broke down or something, I don't know if I could have walked out, I was in that kind of a situation. So finally found the Transamerica Trail again, and I lost so much footage that last day because my camera overheated and I lost all that footage. But I almost fell 2 more times. Just sheer luck. You know, I was going down a ditch and I was all over the bike and everything, and I just gassed it, and I just luckily pulled out and didn't fall. That happened twice, and it took me an hour and a half after the last time I fell to get to a blacktop road. And boy, when I got to that blacktop road, I was so glad to see it. And then it took me an hour to get to the nearest town to get something, you know, to drink and take a break. And then I found a motel room, and I woke up the next day, and I thought, I'm going to give this trail one more shot. And if it gets sketchy within the first mile or two, I'm just going to turn around. Because I was about totally broke by then. Broken. So I get back on the trail. I'm going down a 2-track, about a half a mile, and then all of a sudden it turns to one little path headed toward mountains about 3 to 5 miles away. And I thought, you know what, you're either going to have to go over them or through them. And I didn't know how long the trail was going to be that day. So I really couldn't trust the trail anymore, you know. Because you're in the middle of nowhere, you know. So all that added up to I turned around and I was done. Rode back to the blacktop, and I rode 750 miles of blacktop in 2 days to Medford, Oregon, and met the shipper and handed my bike over to him to ship back to North Carolina. And I met him in Asheville, North Carolina, and I had my van in storage in Murphy, North Carolina. And I got a motel room in Asheville, had to wait a day for him to get there. He got there, unloaded the bike, I hopped on it. It was pouring down rain. And I rode all the way to from Asheville to Murphy, North Carolina, about 110 miles, and nothing but rain all the way there. And got my van out of storage, put the bike on the back of my van, and rode all the way to right outside Orlando, Florida. And I was done. And you know, it was a good trip. I wouldn't recommend it for wouldn't recommend going solo. You know, not unless you absolutely have to. The east side of the Transamerica Trail, you can do solo. You know, pretty much, really, all of it. It was fun and enjoying. But boy, when you get to the West Coast, that's where it gets serious. And you better not, you know, for newbies, rookies, you know, it could be really tough. You could get yourself into quite a situation, because at one time I didn't know if I was going to make it out. It had me. So that's it for this video. If you're getting anything out of these videos, I would appreciate if you like and subscribe. And I couldn't get everything I wanted to get in this one video, so I'm going to put out one more video with just my opinions about some things and my bike modifications and everything. And then after that video, the rest will be the Baja, Mexico beginning.